The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with alien voices. Captain Lee Tae-ho stood in the center of the room, surrounded by creatures from across the galaxy. His dark uniform looked plain next to the colorful robes and strange bodies of the council members. Behind him stood Dr. Park So-ra and engineer Kim Dong-woo, the last human representatives in this place. The chamber was huge, built to show the power of the Galactic Council. Floating platforms held delegates from hundreds of worlds. Some looked like giant insects, others like walking crystals that sparkled in the light. The Viridians sat on the highest platform, their blue skin glowing with pride. They had called for this meeting. Captain Lee Tae-ho of the human species. The speaker's voice echoed through the chamber. The speaker was a tall, thin creature with too many arms. You stand before the council to answer for your species' crimes. Lee kept his face calm, but his hands made fists behind his back. Crimes. Humans had followed every treaty, every rule the council had made. They had been good members for 20 years. What crimes? Lee asked. His voice was steady and clear. The Viridian delegate stood up on his platform. His name was High Counselor Zenth, and he hated humans. Everyone knew it. Your species grows too fast. You take too many worlds. You make weapons that break our laws. We follow all council laws, Dr. Park So-ra said from behind Lee. She was smaller than the captain, but her voice was strong. Every human colony was approved. Every weapon was checked. The crystal beings on another platform made sounds like wind chimes. Their translator spoke for them. The crystalline collective agrees with the Viridians. Humans are dangerous. They change too much, too fast. Lee looked around the chamber. Where were humanity's friends? The Corlin had traded with humans for years. The Benthi loved human art and music, but their platforms were empty or their delegates looked away. You terraform planets in 10 years, another alien said. This one looked like a large turtle with glowing spots. It should take 50 years. You break the natural order. Engineer Kim Dong-woo stepped forward. He was young but brilliant. His inventions had made space travel safer for everyone. We make planets ready for life faster because we care about life. Why is helping people wrong? Because you do it without permission. Zenth's voice was angry now. You change our galaxy without asking us. Your galaxy? Lee felt anger rising in his chest. Last time I checked, humans were part of this galaxy too. The chamber got quiet. Too quiet. Lee knew that was bad. The speaker raised all 6 of his arms. The council has voted. By a count of 847 to 0, with 23 abstentions, the human species is removed from the Galactic Council. The words hit Lee like a punch. He had expected this, but hearing it still hurt. Around him, aliens made sounds of agreement. Some seemed happy, others looked uncomfortable. Furthermore, the speaker continued, all human colonies in council space must be abandoned within 1 standard year. All human trade ships must leave council trade routes. All military vessels must return to human-only space. Dr. Park stepped next to Lee. She was shaking, but not from fear, from anger. You're making a mistake, she said. A big mistake. Is that a threat? Zenth asked. His blue skin was now bright with excitement. No, Park said. It's a warning. You think we're dangerous now? Wait until you see what we can do when we're not following your rules. Security guards moved toward the human delegation. They were large, armored creatures with weapons. Lee held up his hand to stop his people from fighting. We'll go, he said. But remember this day. Remember that you chose fear over friendship. As they walked toward the exit, Kim whispered, Captain, the new drive system is almost ready. We won't need their hyperlanes much longer. Lee nodded but didn't speak. Too many alien ears were listening. At the exit, Admiral Choi Hyejin waited for them. Her hologram flickered slightly from the long-distance transmission from Earth. She was the head of Human Space Command and looked like she wanted to punch someone. I saw the whole thing, she said. The president is calling an emergency meeting. We knew this might happen. What are your orders, Admiral? Lee asked. Get home, fast. We have work to do. As they boarded their ship, Lee took one last look at the council chamber. Aliens were celebrating, talking loudly about their victory over the dangerous humans. They thought they had solved a problem. The human ship was small compared to the alien vessels around Nexus Prime Station, but it was fast and well built. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Park sat down next to Lee. They have no idea what they just did, she said. What do you mean? Park smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. For 20 years we've been good little members of their club. We followed their rules, asked permission for everything, moved slowly to make them comfortable. They think that's all we can do. Lee started to understand. But it's not. Not even close. They've seen humans trying to fit in. They haven't seen humans trying to survive. Park looked out the window at the alien ships. They're about to learn the difference. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, leaving Nexus Prime behind. In the chamber they had left, the aliens were still celebrating. They had removed the threat, they thought. They had made their galaxy safe. But as the human ship raced toward home carrying news of the banishment, something else was racing too. Human anger, human pride, and most dangerous of all, human creativity freed from alien rules. The Council had wanted humanity to go away. They had wanted the dangerous, unpredictable humans to stop bothering them. They thought banishment would solve their problem. They were wrong. Banishment wasn't going to solve anything. It was going to make everything much more interesting. In his captain's chair, Lee smiled for the first time since entering the council chamber. The aliens thought they knew humans. They thought 20 years of watching humans follow rules had taught them everything. Soon, they would learn how little they really knew. Soon they would understand what humans could do when they stopped asking permission. The galaxy was about to change, and it was going to change in ways the Council never imagined. President Yang Min-ho stood at the window of his office on Earth, looking out at the busy city below. 6 months had passed since the Council threw humans out, and everything had changed. Ships filled the sky, carrying people and supplies to the outer colonies. Earth was preparing for the biggest move in human history. Mr. President, his aide called from the doorway. General CO is here for the morning briefing. General COJ-1 entered the office with a datapad in her hands. She looked tired. Everyone looked tired these days. The latest numbers, sir. 340 human colonies are in Council space. That's 80 million people who have to move. Yang turned from the window. How many have agreed to leave? All of them, Seo said with pride. Not one colony voted to stay under alien rule. They'd rather start over than live under species that hate them. That was humans for you, Yang thought. Tell them they can't do something and they'll do it just to prove you wrong. Tell them to leave, and they'll leave with their heads held high. What about the colonies that don't want to move? Yang asked. The Viridians gave New Sol an ultimatum yesterday, Seo said. Pack up and leave in 30 days, or they'll remove the colonists by force. Yang felt anger rise in his chest. New Sol was a beautiful world. Humans had spent 15 years turning it from a dead rock into a garden. They had followed every council rule, filed every paper, paid every fee. Now aliens wanted to take it, just because humans had built it. Any word from Dr. Lim's team? General Seo smiled for the first time that day. You need to see this yourself, sir. They walked to the deep levels under the government building. Here, in secret labs, the brightest human minds worked on projects the Council had never allowed. Dr. Lim Yu-jin met them at the elevator. She was young, maybe 30, with wild hair and excited eyes. Mr. President, you have to see what we've done. Lim almost bounced as she spoke. No more hyperlanes, no more asking permission to travel. We can go anywhere we want. She led them to a large window overlooking a construction bay. Inside was a ship unlike anything Yang had ever seen. It looked like someone had taken a normal spacecraft and folded it in half, then in half again. Strange lights moved under its hull like living things. We call it the phase drive, Lim said. It doesn't use normal space at all. The ship moves through dimensions the aliens can't even see, let alone control. Is it safe? Yang asked. Safer than hyperlanes. And faster, much faster. Lim pulled up a star chart on her datapad. A trip that takes 2 weeks using Council hyperlanes takes 6 hours with phase drive. General SEO whistled. That changes everything. Everything, Lim agreed. The Council controls space travel by controlling the hyperlanes, but we don't need their hyperlanes anymore. We can go anywhere and they can't follow us. Yang studied the strange ship. When will it be ready? It's ready now. We've tested it 50 times. Captain O is taking the first refugee convoy out tomorrow. Captain O Da-young was in the Fleet Command Center, studying star charts with her officers. She was tall and strong, with short black hair and sharp eyes. When she saw the president, she stood up and saluted. Captain, Yang said, I understand you're taking 10 million people to the frontier. Yes, sir. The largest convoy in galactic history. 2,000 ships carrying everyone from the inner colonies. O looked proud and worried at the same time. It's going to be dangerous. We're going into space no human has ever seen. But space where humans can make their own rules, General CO added. That's the idea. O pointed to the star chart. We've found 12 systems beyond Council space. Good worlds, rich in resources, easy to defend. We can build something new, out there. Yang looked at the faces around him. These people weren't afraid. They were excited. Humans had been living by alien rules for so long, they had almost forgotten what it felt like to be free. Any word from our colonies still in Council space? O's face got dark. The Crystalline Collective took over New Busan yesterday. They said the humans were mining too fast, changing the planet too much, gave everyone 24 hours to get out. And? The colonists disabled every mining machine, every power plant, every piece of equipment they built. They left the crystals with an empty rock. O smiled coldly. If the aliens want the planet, they can have it. But they can't have what we built on it. That was happening all over Council space. Human colonies were leaving, but they weren't leaving anything useful behind. Machines were broken, computers were wiped, buildings were stripped down to bare walls. The Council wanted the humans gone? Fine, but they would get empty worlds, not the gardens humans had made. When do we launch? Yang asked. Tomorrow at 600, O said. The whole convoy jumps together, one big middle finger to the Council. The next morning, Yang stood in the command center and watched the greatest exodus in human history. On the screens, 2,000 ships filled space around Earth. Each ship carried families, equipment, hopes, and dreams. They were leaving everything. They knew to build something new. All ships report ready, O said from the bridge of her flagship. Phase drive is charged and ready. Any Council ships nearby? Yang asked. 3 Viridian patrol boats, an officer reported. They're trying to scan our ships. Let them scan, O said. They won't understand what they're seeing anyway. Yang opened a channel to the entire convoy. This is President Yang. Today you leave the homes you built to find new ones. You leave because others fear what we can become. But fear is their weakness, not ours. Go now and show the galaxy what free humans can do. On the screen, space itself seemed to bend around the convoy ships. The phase drive wasn't like hyperlanes, which tore holes in space. It was smoother, like stepping from one room into another through a door that wasn't really there. Phase drive activated, O announced. Jump in 3, 2, 1. The ships vanished. All 2,000 of them gone in an instant. No flash of light, no explosion of energy. They were simply somewhere else. In their patrol boats, the Viridian officers stared at their sensors. Their equipment showed nothing. No energy signature, no dimensional tear, no trace of where the human ships had gone. It was as if 10 million humans had simply ceased to exist. But they hadn't ceased to exist. They had gone somewhere the aliens couldn't follow, couldn't find, couldn't control. They had gone to build something new. Yang smiled as he watched the empty space where the convoy had been. The aliens had wanted humans gone. Well, now they were gone. But they hadn't disappeared. They had just moved to a place where they could be fully human. The Council was about to learn something important. Humans didn't just go away when you told them to. They went somewhere else and got creative. And when humans got creative, amazing things happened. 3 years had passed since the Great Exodus, and the frontier colonies looked nothing like the places humans had left behind. Director Park Hyun-sik stood on the observation deck of New Horizons Station, watching construction robots build something. That would have been impossible under council rules. The station was alive, not just with people but with technology that thought and learned and grew. The walls themselves were smart, adjusting temperature and light for whoever walked through them. The computers didn't just calculate, they created new solutions to problems no one had thought of yet. "Sir," his assistant called from across the room. "Captain Shin is back from the deep exploration mission." Park turned away from the construction and walked to the briefing room. Captain Shin Bora was waiting for him, still wearing her exploration suit. Her face was excited and worried at the same time. "What did you find out there?" Park asked. Shin activated a hologram projector. Images filled the air above the table, ancient structures on distant worlds, technology that looked both familiar and impossible. "We're not the first," she said. "The galaxy has been through this cycle before, many times." The images showed ruins of cities that stretched across entire continents, ships that were bigger than anything humans or the current council species had ever built, and in the center of it all, symbols that looked almost human. "These ruins are millions of years old," Shin continued. "But the technology, it's like someone took human engineering and had 1,000,000 years to perfect it." Park studied the images. "You think humans lived here before?" "Not humans exactly, but something like us. Something that built fast, changed quickly, pushed the limits of what was possible." Shin pointed to one image. "Look at this." It was a star map, carved into stone but somehow still glowing with soft light. It showed the galaxy, but not as the current species knew it. There were pathways between stars that the Council had never found. Connections that went beyond the simple hyperlanes everyone used now. They found ways to travel that we're just beginning to understand, Shin said. Ways to move energy, information, even matter across impossible distances. Park felt a chill run down his back. What happened to them? "We found records. They were destroyed by a coalition of older species. Species that were afraid of how fast they were growing, how much they were changing." Shin's voice was quiet. "Sound familiar?" Before Park could answer, Dr. Kang Woo-jin entered the briefing room. He was the head of human enhancement programs, working on projects that would have horrified the old council. His work was making humans stronger, smarter, more adaptable than ever before. "Director Park," Kang said, "you need to see what we've accomplished." They walked to the medical labs where humans were becoming something more than human. Not in a scary way, but in a wonderful way. People who could breathe underwater, see in total darkness, survive in the vacuum of space for short periods. The enhancements weren't forced. They were chosen by volunteers who wanted to help humanity explore new worlds. "The council species think inside boxes," Kang explained as they watched a woman with enhanced lungs swim in a tank of liquid that would drown a normal person. "They see a dangerous environment and think, we can't live here. We see the same environment and think, how can we adapt to live here?" "Any problems?" Park asked. "None. The enhanced humans are still completely human. They just have more options." Kang smiled. "And they're having enhanced children. Natural selection, but guided by human intelligence instead of random chance." Their next stop was the engineering section, where Kim Dong-woo had been working on projects that made the phase drive look simple. He was older now, with gray in his hair, but his eyes still shone with the excitement of discovery. "Director," Kim called out when he saw them. "Perfect timing. We're about to test the reality adjuster." "Well, what?" Park asked. Kim pointed to a machine that hurt to look at. It seemed to exist in more dimensions than Park's eyes could handle. "We found the theories in the ancient ruins. It's possible to change the basic rules of physics, but only in very small areas and for short times." He activated the machine. In a small chamber nearby, a ball fell upward instead of down. Water flowed in a perfect circle instead of finding the lowest point. Light bent in impossible directions. "Useful for manufacturing," Kim said. We can make materials that couldn't exist under normal physics. Stronger, lighter, more flexible than anything the Council species have. Park shook his head in wonder. How long until this is ready for general use? 6 months, maybe less. We don't have Council committees slowing us down. Kim grinned. It's amazing how fast science moves when you don't have to ask permission for every experiment. That evening, Park met with Ambassador Yoon Soo-min in his private office. Yoon had been working inside Council space, building networks of aliens who were unhappy with their governments. How bad is it getting for them? Park asked. Yoon poured herself a drink from a bottle of human whiskey, one of the few luxuries they still imported from Earth. Bad. 3 minor species have asked to join us. They're tired of being told what they can and can't do by the major powers. What about the major powers themselves? Scared. They know we're out here, but they can't find us. Our phase drive ships are invisible to their sensors. They keep finding human technology in the hands of pirates and rebels, but they don't know how it's getting there. Park smiled. Let me guess, it's not really pirates and rebels. Of course not. It's humans, working with aliens who want change. We're not conquering anyone. We're just showing them there are alternatives to the Council way. Yoon activated a secure communicator. There's something else. We've been monitoring Council transmissions. They're having problems. Images appeared in the air. Council fleets, attacking something in deep space. The something was winning. What is that? Park asked. They call it the Devourer. Some kind of ancient, automated defense system that's woken up. It eats entire star systems, turning matter into energy for some purpose no one understands. Park studied the images. Council ships fired their best weapons at the thing, but it just absorbed the energy and grew larger. Their weapons don't work? Park asked. Their weapons are designed to fight other Council species. Predictable energy patterns, standard defensive systems. The Devourer isn't playing by those rules. But our weapons would work differently. Exactly. Phase drive weapons that attack from dimensions the thing can't see. Reality adjusters that change the rules it's operating under. Enhanced humans who can think and adapt faster than its learning algorithms. Park walked to his window and looked out at the human colonies. Ships moved between the worlds carrying people and ideas and dreams. Children played in parks that existed in artificial gravity fields that could be adjusted to let them fly like birds. This was what humanity looked like when it was free. Creative, adaptable, always growing and changing, and becoming something new. The Council had feared this, and their fear had driven them to banish humanity. But now the Council needed help, and humans were the only species that could provide it. The irony was almost funny. Almost. Schedule a meeting with the senior staff, Park said. We need to talk about whether we want to save the people who threw us out. Yoon raised her glass. Should be an interesting conversation. Outside the window, human ships continued their work. Building, exploring, creating, adapting. Being human in all the ways the Council had forbidden. The galaxy was about to learn what that really meant. Fleet Admiral Jang Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of humanity's newest warship, watching the impossible happen. Through the view screen, he could see the Devourer eating a star. Not just the planets around the star itself. Solar matter flowed into the massive creature like water down a drain. How big is that thing now? He asked his science officer. Dr. Cho Min-seo checked her readings. 30,000 kilometers across and growing. It's consumed 12 star systems in the past month. At this rate, it will reach the core worlds within a year. Jung had been studying reports about the Devourer for weeks. The Council's best fleets had attacked it 7 times. 7 times they had failed. Their weapons bounced off it like raindrops on stone. Their ships were destroyed or absorbed, adding their mass to the creature's bulk. Admiral, his communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from Council space. It's unusual. Put it through. The view screen changed to show an alien Jang had never seen before. It looked like a cross between a bird and a plant, with feathers that shifted color as it spoke. Human Admiral, the alien said, its voice translated by computers. I am Counselor Vexithai of the Etherian Assembly. I speak for the minor species within Council space. I'm listening, Jang said. The Devourer cannot be stopped by conventional means. Our masters, the Viridians, the Crystalline Collective, the others, refuse to admit this. They continue to send fleets to die rather than ask for help. Zhang almost smiled. Help from who? From humans. From the species they banished for being too dangerous, too unpredictable. Vexthai's feathers shifted to darker colors. The same qualities they feared are the qualities we need now. Before Zhang could respond, another transmission came in. This one was from High Counselor Zenth himself, the Viridian who had led the effort to banish humanity. Human Admiral, Zenth said, his blue skin pale with fear. I am authorized to offer temporary cooperation against the Devourer threat. Temporary cooperation, Zhang repeated. How generous. The Council recognizes that your species has unique capabilities that might be effective against this enemy. Zhang looked at his crew. They were watching him, waiting to see how he would respond. These people had been thrown out of their homes, forced to rebuild their lives in unknown space, treated like criminals by the galaxy's governments. Dr. Cho, Zhang said, turning to his science officer, tell our council friends what you've learned about their species. Dr. Cho had been studying alien psychology for years. Her research had helped humans understand why they had been banished and why they were needed now. Council species have been bred for stability, she said, looking directly at Zenth's transmission. For thousands of years, your societies have selected for individuals who follow rules, who don't make waves, who fit in with established systems. That is our strength, Zenth replied. No, Cho said firmly. That's your weakness. When you face a completely new threat, you can only respond with old solutions. You can't adapt fast enough because adaptation has been bred out of you. She pulled up data on her screen. Humans are different. We're the result of millions of years of surviving in changing environments. We're adapted for adaptation itself. When we see something new, our first instinct is to figure out how to deal with it. Can you stop the Devourer? Vexthai asked. Captain Baik Seo Jin, who commanded Zhang's escort fleet, stepped forward. Maybe, but first we need to see it up close. That's suicide, Zenth said. No ship can get near that thing and survive. Beck smiled. No council ship can. Human ships are different. An hour later, Beck's small fleet approached the Devourer. His ships were sleek and strange, built with technology the council had never seen. As they got closer, the creature turned toward them. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Its surface flowed like liquid metal, constantly changing shape as it processed the matter it had consumed. Tendrils of energy reached out from it, testing the space around it for threats. It's scanning us, Beck's science officer reported. But the scans aren't working. Our phase drive hulls exist in too many dimensions for it to get a clear reading. Good. Let's see how it likes this. Beck's ships opened fire, but not with normal weapons. Their guns shot reality distortions, beams that changed the basic rules of physics where they hit. For the first time since it had awakened, the Devourer screamed. It was a sound that came through space itself, a vibration that reached into the minds of everyone who heard it. But it wasn't just screaming in pain. It was screaming in surprise. It's never been hurt before, Beck's weapons officer said with excitement. It doesn't know how to react. The creature lashed out with energy tentacles, trying to grab the human ships. But the ships weren't there anymore. They had jumped through dimensions, appearing behind the creature to attack its blind spots. Pull back, Zhang ordered from his flagship. We've learned enough. As Bayek's ships retreated, using phase drives to escape faster than the creature could follow, Zhang opened channels to both council transmissions. We can hurt it, he told them. We can probably kill it. But not from a distance and not quickly. What do you need? Vexithai asked immediately. Access to council space. Our ships need to approach from multiple angles, coordinate attacks across several star systems, and we need the council fleets to stop interfering. Zenth's face grew even paler. You want free access to all of council space? After you were banished? That's exactly what we want, Zhang said. Full access, no restrictions, no oversight committees, no permissions needed for anything. Impossible. Then you'll die, Jang said simply. The Devourer will eat your worlds one by one, and there's nothing your conventional forces can do to stop it. Vexthai's feathers shifted to bright colors. The minor species agree to your terms. We will provide whatever support you need. The minor species don't have authority, Zenth began. The minor species make up 60% of council membership, Vexthai interrupted. And we're tired of being told what we can and can't do by species that are too proud to ask for help when they need it. On his bridge, Yang watched as something historic happened. The smaller species in the council were standing up to their bullies for the first time in centuries, and they were doing it by siding with the humans those bullies had thrown out. Admiral, his communications officer said, "We're receiving support pledges from 43 different species. They're offering fuel, supplies, safe harbors for our fleets." Jang nodded. This was how change happened. Not all at once, but bit by bit, as people found the courage to choose something different. "Send a message to all human fleets," he ordered. "Operation Payback is authorized. We're going back to Council space." "Sir," Dr. Cho said quietly, "are we really doing this to save them? After everything they did to us?" Jang looked at the image of the Devourer on his screen, still consuming the star it had been feeding on when they arrived. "We're doing it, because it's the right thing to do, and because when this is over they're going to owe us everything." He smiled coldly. "And then we'll see how much their pride is worth." The human fleets began moving toward Council space, carrying weapons and tactics the galaxy had never seen. The aliens who had banished them were about to learn what humans could do when they stopped asking permission and started solving problems their own way. The Devourer had awakened to find a galaxy of prey, but it was about to discover that one species in that galaxy was predator, not prey, and humans were very good at hunting. 7 years after his banishment, Chancellor Li Taeho walked into the same chamber where the Galactic Council had thrown humanity out. But everything was different now. The floating platforms had been rearranged into circles instead of a hierarchy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat as equals, not as rulers and servants. Li wore the same dark uniform he had worn that terrible day, but now it carried new meaning. He was no longer a defendant. He was the leader of the species that had saved the galaxy. The fight against the Devourer had taken 2 years. 2 years of the most dangerous warfare the galaxy had ever seen. Human fleets had attacked from dimensions the creature couldn't perceive, using weapons that changed reality itself. They had fought battles inside stars, in the space between atoms in places where normal physics broke down. The creature had adapted, learned, grown stronger with each attack. But humans adapted faster. Every time the Devourer changed its defenses, human engineers found new ways to break through them. Every time it developed new weapons, human tactics evolved to counter them. In the end, they had won by doing something the creature couldn't understand. They had sacrificed ships and crews to save aliens who had rejected them. The Devourer, built by some ancient species to fight selfish enemies, couldn't process the concept of selfless heroism. Its programming had no response to creatures who would die for others rather than kill for themselves. It had shut itself down, confused and broken by humanity's illogical compassion. "Chancellor Li," the new speaker said. She was one of Vexithai's species, chosen by the Reformed Council to represent all voices equally. "Please address the assembly." Li walked to the center of the chamber, just as he had 7 years before. But this time the delegates leaned forward to listen instead of glaring down in judgment. "7 years ago you banished us because you feared what we might become," he began. His voice carried clearly through the chamber. "You were right to fear us, but not for the reasons you thought." He gestured to the viewing screens that showed the galaxy outside. Ships moved between worlds freely now, carrying trade and ideas and dreams. Human technology had connected distant sectors, making travel and communication faster than ever before. You feared our weapons, our ships, our rapid growth. But those weren't the dangerous things about humans. The dangerous thing was our refusal to accept that things had to stay the way they were. Peacekeeper Park Sora, who now led the Galactic Rehabilitation Program, stood up from her seat. She had been working for 5 years to help former council worlds adapt to freedom and change. Some species have embraced the new system, she reported to the assembly. The Corlan have established 3 new colonies using human terraforming technology. The Benthi have started their own innovation programs, creating art forms that combine human and alien sensibilities. And others? Lee asked, though he already knew the answer. The Crystalline Collective has chosen to maintain their traditional ways within protected cultural zones. They're free to live as they always have, but they no longer have the power to force others to do the same. That was the key to the new system. Freedom to choose. Species that wanted to stay the same could stay the same, but they couldn't stop others from choosing change. Chief Engineer Kim Dong-woo, now much older but still brilliant, activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy's new infrastructure. Streams of light connected thousands of worlds, representing the phase drive networks that had replaced the old hyperlane system. Transportation time between any 2 points in the galaxy, 6 hours maximum, he reported. Communication time, instantaneous. Trade volume, up 400% since the old system was replaced. Any problems? Lee asked. Minor ones. Some pirates are using human technology, but they're being handled by the joint patrol fleets. A few systems have requested help with resource management. Nothing we can't solve. Supreme Admiral Choi Hee-jin, who now commanded fleets made up of dozens of different species, nodded from her seat. The integration program is working well. Human officers are training alien crews in adaptive tactics. Alien officers are teaching humans about patience and long-term planning. Learning from each other, Lee said, instead of fearing each other. But not everyone in the chamber was happy. Former High Counselor Zenth sat in the Viridian section, his blue skin darker than it used to be. His species had lost their dominant position when the council reformed, and some of them were still bitter about it. This is not the order we built, Zenth said when Lee acknowledged him. The galaxy was stable under the old system, peaceful, predictable. Stagnant, Lee corrected. Unable to defend itself when real threats appeared, unable to adapt to new challenges. And now? What happens when the next crisis comes? When your chaotic system faces something it can't handle? Lee smiled. We'll figure it out. That's what humans do. That's what free beings do. We adapt. We learn. We overcome. He walked to the great window that looked out on Nexus Prime's rebuilt structure. The station had been expanded with human engineering, creating spaces that were both beautiful and functional. Gardens floated in zero gravity. Waterfalls flowed upward. Art installations used gravity and light in ways that made them seem alive. The old council tried to preserve peace by preventing change, Lee said. But life is change. Growth is change. The universe itself is constantly changing. You can't preserve anything by standing still. You can only fall behind while everything else moves forward. Dr. Cho Min-seo, who had become the Assembly's chief advisor on interspecies psychology, stood up. We've learned something important over the past few years. Species diversity isn't a problem to be managed. It's a resource to be used. She activated her own display, showing data from across the reformed galaxy. Human creativity combined with Corlan patience, Viridian organization skills paired with Benthi artistic vision, crystalline long-term memory working with human adaptability. Every combination produces something new and valuable. But only when all species are free to contribute their best qualities, Lee added. The old system wasted most of the galaxy's potential by putting some species in charge and telling others to follow orders. Fexthai, who had become one of Lee's closest allies, raised a wing arm for attention. The minor species want to thank humanity officially. Before the humans returned, we had no voice in galactic affairs. Now we're equal partners in building the future. A wave of agreement moved through the chamber. Species that had been ignored for centuries were now active participants in galactic government. Their ideas mattered. Their needs were considered. Their unique abilities were valued. What about Earth? Someone called out. Will humans maintain their separation from the rest of the galaxy? Lee shook his head. Separation was never our goal. We left because we had to. Now we're back because we choose to be. Earth is part of the galaxy, and the galaxy is part of Earth. He looked around the chamber one last time. 7 years ago, you banished us for being different. For changing too fast, growing too quickly, refusing to follow rules that didn't make sense. You thought our differences made us dangerous. His voice grew stronger. You were right. Our differences are dangerous. To stagnation, to oppression, to the idea that things have to stay the way they've always been. But those same differences are also our greatest strength. They're what allowed us to save you from the Devourer. They're what's making the galaxy a better place now. He walked toward the exit just as he had 7 years before. But this time he wasn't being escorted by guards. He was leaving as the elected leader of a free galaxy. The council that banished us is gone, he said from the doorway. In its place, we've built something better, something that uses our differences instead of fearing them, something that grows stronger through change instead of weaker. And if you don't like the changes we've made, you have the right to vote for something different. That's what freedom means. The right to choose your own path, even if others think it's wrong. As Lee left the chamber, the delegates continued their work. They were planning new colonies, new trade routes, new cultural exchanges. They were solving problems and creating opportunities. They were building a future that none of them could have imagined under the old system. Outside the station, human ships worked alongside alien vessels, installing new phase drive relays that would connect distant sectors. Children from dozens of worlds played together in the station's schools, learning from each other and creating friendships that would last lifetimes. The galaxy had been reborn, not through conquest or force, but through the simple idea that everyone deserved the chance to be their best selves. Humans had been banished for being different. In response, they had made the entire galaxy a place where being different was not just accepted, but celebrated. That more than any weapon or technology was humanity's greatest gift to the stars.